Do you struggle with weight loss, emotional eating, or figuring out your hormones? Today, you'll hear my lively conversation with Brittany, a passionate functional medicine dietitian, as we explore the topics of gut health, restrictive dieting, and the chaos that often characterizes life as a woman and mom. You're going to start to put some puzzle pieces together about your health. Brittany offers practical tips for anyone who has experienced frustration while trying to improve their well-being. If you connect with what Brittany shares, I'd encourage you to head to the show notes where you can find a link to join her Shift community with the first 30 days free for our listeners. Welcome to the Daily Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Meredith. I've led my family on a transformative health journey for over a decade, and now I help other families do the same. This is a place where busy moms can learn about healthy living. I hope that what you learn here helps you feel empowered to take the next step in your family's health journey. Brittany, thanks for joining the Daily Wellness Podcast.
Yeah, I'm really excited. We were talking before, but I love that we're so local to each other.
I know. Midwest girls here chatting it up. It's so fun. I've loved to see, your Instagram is so informative, and you just approach the whole nutrition world in such a relatable way. And so I am so excited to just learn a little bit more from you today. And I know that you call yourself a functional medicine dietitian, which is probably different from what a lot of people would think a dietitian is. So can you kind of tell us the difference between a conventional dietitian and what a functional medicine dietitian does?
Yeah, and it's a little bit hard to articulate, but I will do my best here. So because I was a traditional dietitian, before I had the master's degree in functional medicine, I was practicing just general dietetics, right? And so that is more, it is kind of functional medicine in it of itself, because you're using food as the fix, right? Mm-hmm. So that already is pretty holistic, right? We're saying, okay, you have high cholesterol. We're going to adapt your diet and your lifestyle to really affect that cholesterol. Whereas you go to a doctor, of course, they're going to give you a medication, right? So already being a dietitian in general, is pretty holistic, right? I would say the biggest difference is just the extra training that I got in full body health. So as a dietitian, you have to know everything about the body, because we have to know what's going wrong and then how nutrition can influence that. But I think it was more about the mind-body connection. It was more about the deeper understanding of how things move together. And I think the biggest difference is really understanding gut health, which of course is my passion. That's what I love to talk about. Give me a good poo conversation and I'm happy. So I think learning about, of course, as a traditional dietitian, we would get people who had, quote, IBS, right? Which is a whole other topic that we should probably get into. And okay, well, maybe when you're in a flare, don't have fiber, or let's make sure, are you drinking enough? And it was almost pretty surface level, right? But can be helpful. There is a time and a place where that is really needed. But then I was really more interested in, well, why do they have these issues in the first place?
Right.
I think that's a good way to kind of look at it. Is the functional medicine piece is really looking at the why and the how. Because if you can influence why you're experiencing the symptoms, you don't have to just kind of put a Band-Aid on them with diet changes. Right. You can figure out, okay, well, how can we just keep that from happening? What is the dysfunction that's driving those symptoms? So it's that root cause approach, right? To determine, okay, so you're saying you have IBS, but what is causing those symptoms? That is the real difference there.
Yeah, I have come to love that approach to health in general for me and my family. So I love that you're helping women do that. Do you have any idea how many women you have helped and worked with at this point?
I don't know. Because I put so much free information out on social media, because I truly want it to be like, if you want to go all in your health, let's do it. Let's get you like the most personalized package we can. Yeah. Let's make, streamline your approach. But then I also want, if that is not in the cards for you, if it is just financially not feasible, I still want to help you. So I get messages, honestly, from people all the time, from women saying, I cannot tell you how much your Instagram has helped me. The things that you share, I'm down 50 pounds. My gut has never been better. And it's all from free information that I'm sharing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that works for some people. But then there are those other people who really have deeper dysfunctions that probably aren't going to be solved by just kind of the generalized tips that I'm sharing on socials, and they need to take it a step further. So I wish I had a number because that would be really cool.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot. I bet you're helping a lot of women. So many.
Yeah. I like to think too, just like helping people feel more comfortable about talking about poop or talking about periods, right? It's like, we all poop. Let's talk about it. I want you to describe it to me. I want you to tell me everything about it, because it really is this almost like a vital sign for your body. It's a great report card to say, how are things internally? And it's the same thing with periods, right? It's like a little report card every month. How are things looking? And I think it's important to talk about those things.
Yeah, I agree. What are the main complaints that you have, like, from women coming to you for help?
I would say across the board, the number one, if I lined up everybody, a symptom that's on everybody's list is difficulty losing weight, low energy, fatigue, right? That chronic fatigue picture. But then also the gut specific symptoms, because I get clients from a bunch of different walks of life. Some just really want to optimize their health. They can't understand why their body doesn't feel right. And then the other side, the majority of the clients I see do have pretty severe gut issues. So it could be bloating, and not just like, oh man, I ate a little bit too much. My stomach's a little bit distended. It's like, no, I wake up bloated. I look 6 months pregnant. I literally can't breathe. And I was there. Like, I experienced that, and it's awful. So bloating is a big one, constipation, diarrhea, stomach pains after eating, food sensitivities is a big one. And I have a very different perspective on food sensitivities than a lot of people, and just giving people hope that it's not a forever thing, that it is something that can be fixed. But those are probably the biggies that encompasses a lot.
Mm-hmm. And since you focus so much on gut health, I know that's one of your passions. Do you feel like that is kind of the solution for all of these things? I mean, even things like weight or energy?
Good question. Sometimes it can be, but here's something that I see right now in the Instagram world and the social media world is that people come to me and they're like, man, Brittany, I'm doing everything right. My nutrition is on point. I'm working out. I'm managing my stress. I'm sleeping. It has to be a hormonal or a gut issue. And I'm like, yeah, it might be, right? That could be the cause. But then when I dig into their history, right, and we're in a one-on-one call, they're not eating not eating what they should be consistently. They're not managing their stress. They're really not sleeping. So it's the foundational things often that people are missing. And our brains it's not that they're lying to me, right? It's not that they're like, no, I'm doing everything, and they don't think they are. No, they truly think they're doing the things, because our brain is just a miraculous thing. And it tells us these stories about who we are and how we're showing up. And I think when you can look at something, and this is a good exercise for anyone listening, I want you to think about your last 3 or 5 days. And then I want you to think about what your biggest health goal is. So let's say it's gut healing, okay? Or no, let's say weight loss. Let's do weight loss. Mm-hmm. So you desire weight loss, and you're telling me you would do anything to lose weight. Look at the past 3 to 5 days, and I want you to ask yourself, is the way that you have been living supporting your goal of weight loss? And it's a really powerful exercise, because you can answer that a couple ways. I want you to obviously answer it truthfully, but you might answer no. Those last 3 or 5 days, no, I wasn't prioritizing sleep. I wasn't managing my stress. I was skipping a ton of meals, which was causing me to overeat at the next meal. I had alcohol 2 of those days. That's probably not going to support my weight loss efforts, right? And then what happens is there's a couple of things that happen. Then they say, but that was different. We're in the middle of soccer season, plus it's baseball. I don't know what those seasons probably don't overlap, but you get what I'm saying. They're like,
yes,
well, it's chaos. Work is crazy, and this is crazy. And I'm like, okay, so let's take it even further and look at a month. Let's look at the past month. Well, that's been crazy too, because, and I'm like, okay, so it sounds like your life is crazy, right?
Right.
It's not a season of busy. It is a life of busy. So in your head, you're thinking, yeah, when things are calm and peaceful, I am doing all the things. But your life is not calm and peaceful right now, and it's not going to be for several years to come because you're in the thick of motherhood. Chaos, right? You want to prioritize you, but you also have to keep tiny humans alive and happy, right? That's a lot of responsibility. So then we look at, okay, so now that we understand that your life is just a little chaotic and it's a little busy, instead of waiting for life to get easier to make the changes, we need to give you the tools to manage your health even when it's chaos, right? And that little exercise is so powerful because it forces your brain to actually objectively look and say, okay, I'm telling myself this story that I'm doing everything right. Is that true? Yeah. And the flip side is sometimes the answer is yes. You might be doing this exercise and saying, but Brittany, I am doing everything. I believe you. I do. I like some people are doing everything. And those are the people who aren't going to be fixed by the free information on Instagram. That is when that deeper root cause approach is really needed, because it might be, going back to your original question, it might be a gut issue that's fueling inflammation, that's also contributing to fatty liver disease, which is contributing to insulin resistance. You know, it could be that entire picture, or it could be a true hormone imbalance, right? There can be these deeper issues for why you can't lose weight, why you're tired. But I will tell you that 9 times out of 10, it's the foundational things that people aren't consistently doing.
Yeah. I think that's really brilliant that you're able to give people tools like in the midst of the crazy life that they're already living. Because I mean, I'm thinking I was mentally doing the exercise. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, what was my life like the last 3 to 5 days?
Yeah.
And just the women that I've talked to, my friends, like we're all in the same space of, you know, having children, doing all the things and, you know, being so busy with, especially with the holidays coming. And I think we can use that as an excuse, right? To not do the things that we know we should be doing, to not reach out for help, to, you know, put it off longer and longer because we don't think that we have the capacity or the ability in the midst of the busy life to make healthy changes. So I think that's amazing. So you're saying that you actually can give women tools in the midst of their crazy to make progress with their health.
Absolutely. And ideally, like the most ideal scenario is that we just de-busy your life. That's not a word, but you got what I'm saying, right?
I do, yes.
And we say, okay, and we were talking before, you know, I am a mom of 2 and I have 2 businesses and I still will prioritize myself. So your life can be as chaotic and as busy as you want it to be. We don't know, you know, my kids are not in 5 different activities. Now one's still a baby. I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, right? So they're not in that, you know, they're not in middle school where they're doing all of the things. So it's just these different phases of life. But if I'm in this kind of more baby phase right now and I say, it'll be so much easier when they're independent. Well, no, it won't, because then they're going to be in activities. And then you're going to say, I'll just wait until they're in high school and they can drive. Okay, well, then you're going to find something else to busy up your time. So as you're waiting for life to get easier, your health symptoms are piling on top of each other. And so instead of waiting for life to be easier as the time to invest, it's really helpful, like I said before, to develop those skills that you can thrive even during the busy, because you don't want to just survive through motherhood. And I see that and it breaks my heart. And literally I get emotional every time I think about it, because as moms, you know, it goes so fast. Everything goes so fast. I told you I get so emotional because I'm just so passionate about it, that we sacrifice ourselves as a mom and we say, now is not the time to prioritize me. I have to prioritize my kid. But what's going to happen is you are going, if that is your narrative, if that's your story, you're going to get to the time when they don't need you anymore. And you're going to think, I didn't even live where was I? I wasn't present. I was snippy. I let gut issues rule my life. I said no to family vacations because I figured my gut couldn't handle it. So you're going to look back, because you weren't prioritizing yourself, you wasted their entire childhood. And that is like, that breaks my heart. Like, truly, I can think of very few worse. I mean, there are worse things, but you know, it's like motherhood is hard. And don't you want to feel good for it? Don't you want to feel energized? Don't you want to have a longer fuse for them? Because I mean, it's like we're all human beings. When I don't feel my best, when I'm not prioritizing sleep in the midst of chaos, we literally in 1 month in my business launched a summit and 2 memberships in 30 days. 30 days. And it was chaos, right? There was a lot of things happening. But I still had to prioritize myself because I didn't want to simply exist for my family during that time. Right. And there's a balance there, and it is developing those skills so that, okay, understanding things are busy. What can we affect? What can we do? Not what can't we do? We're not making excuses. Well, I can't do that because of that. I can't do this because of this. We shift our focus into stop finding reasons that you can't and start finding ways that you can.
What would you give us as a little sneak peek into your life as to how you are prioritizing your health in the midst of busy?
Yeah. I can tell you it's different all the time. I don't have like an established, I do this every single day because every day is different. Sometimes I have an early morning podcast recording like, with you. Yesterday, I had 4 clients, which is a lot I usually have 2 clients max on a day, but we had 4 and that didn't start until 11. So I had the morning, so every day is a little bit different. But really what my non-negotiables are I'm going to prioritize sleep. I'm going to limit my caffeine in the morning. So on the days when I am most tired are the days that I really limit my caffeine, which is really backwards for people. They're like, no, when I'm tired, I pound the caffeine. Well, having too much caffeine makes me feel really sick. It makes my stomach hurt, which means I don't prioritize breakfast. I don't prioritize a good lunch because I'm just feeling kind of off, and it makes my entire day go worse, right? But for me, it's really important to have time in the morning. This is maybe the closest thing to one of my non-negotiables is having time in the morning where I'm reading by myself, sipping coffee. So the kids are all off to school. They're doing their thing. I do not have email on my phone. I don't get notifications on my phone. That is a rule. I have like a old school, how everyone has an Apple Watch? I have literally it, and it can get notifications, but I turn them off. I don't want to be notified of anything. When I am at the computer, that's when I'm working. And there's, of course, when we're launching things, I did turn my emails on my phone. But so again, it's these different seasons of life that you can give a little bit more and sometimes knowing you're going to pull back really soon. But reading in the morning is a time for me. And I always read a business book, like something strategy-wise in the morning. And then at night is like my novels, like my spicy, whatever I'm reading, or right now,
right, something fun,
terrible, horrible novel for book club. And I'm trying to get through it. But anyway, it's something to kind of get my mind right. So I'm not immediately opening my email and thinking, oh my gosh, okay, I got to do that. I got to do this. This has to happen. That has to happen. Nope, it can wait. It can wait. And that took a long time to be there. If you are a business owner, you feel like everything is urgent. If somebody emailed me at 8 a.m., I'm like, oh, I have to respond to them now. I can't wait till 11 a.m. to email them. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You could even probably wait a whole day if you needed to, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's so much up here of letting go of expectations that I have put on myself. I own the business. Nobody is telling me I need to do anything. I'm in charge of my own pace, and I'm in charge of what gets priority. And sometimes it's business, and sometimes it's rest, and sometimes it's my kids. And it changes from week to week depending on where things are, right?
Yeah.
So that's a non-answer, but kind of an answer.
It is. And I like the flexibility that you have built into your life, because that's what we need as busy moms, is we need the ability to flex. And if you have this really strict routine, I mean, if that works for you, great. But I find that often a really strict, check mark ABC every morning, 7 days a week, that makes me feel really defeated because I can't keep up with it.
Totally. And honestly, I take that same principle, and this is exactly what I teach clients in their health journey, because people are used to rigid rules. They are used to, I'm working out every day or I'm not working out at all. I am eating 100% perfect every day, or I'm eating whatever I want. There is a balance. And when you make everything so strict, it takes the fun out of life. Like take exercise, for example, right? You are a new person every day, right? And especially if you're a cycling woman, if you still get your period, your hormones are very different every day that affect your appetite. It affects your capacity to work out. It affects your energy levels. So I try to bring my clients back to dropping into their own body and sensing how they feel instead of an external, I have to work out because it's Tuesday and I always do this 1 hour routine, right? So
Right.
whenever you're faced with the decision of, okay, I think I should work out. Okay, how am I feeling? Am I fueled? Am I rested? Am I feeling energized? That's the time where you go hard. You do a HIIT workout. You run 6 miles. You do something because your body is supported. It is in a good space. But if your kid was waking you up all night, you didn't prioritize breakfast, you have overdone it on the caffeine, it's probably not the time to do a really intense workout, or it's like, day 2 of your period. And it might be the time where you prioritize walks. You're still going to move your body, but it doesn't have to be a rule. You can say, today, what I need is movement that's a little bit more gentle. And that's what you do. And that's what leads to enjoying exercise, because if you are not feeling like doing a hard workout, you can probably relate to this, right? I know I can.
Yes.
And I tried to force myself to do a hard workout. Hated it. It was awful. And then it creates this pattern in your brain of, we don't like exercise. No, we do like exercise, but we like doing movement that feels good for what our body needs in the moment.
That's really powerful, because I don't think we've been taught that as women, to like actually analyze how we feel, to really self-reflect, to like, tune in to all those things about, our what part of the cycle that we're in, and all, we aren't taught that. We're taught to basically act like men in a woman's body, with all the hormones and responsibilities that we have. So I think that's really powerful.
Yeah. And, the food, it all of that same principle applies to food too, is that there is a balance to be struck of, there is a time and a place for nuance. There is a time and a place that you might want to restrict something, or you might, want to be a little bit more diligent about specific ingredients. But man, if you are not sleeping, you're not eating 3 meals a day, your hunger cues aren't online, you're not prioritizing protein, you're not doing any of those things, then like you're trying to be at step 100 and you're at step 1. And that's why things don't work out. You're trying to go way up here and you're panicking about all of these little things, which might be important for some people, but where you are right now, you've got bigger fish to fry, right? You are running on stress hormones because your life is chaos. You're not sleeping. You're not doing that. That's what you focus on. And so you can leave the overwhelm of everything else to a future you.
Right. Love that. Yeah. Different seasons.
Absolutely. Yes, 100%.
Can we go back to gut health for a minute? Because I know that's something that you talk about so much. Like, how do you know, or if I'm, a client thinking about what might be wrong with me, what can I kind of analyze about myself to know that there might be some gut health issues?
Yeah. So if you have, I think most of the time, usually I tell clients, like, you'll know if gut issues are a thing for you. But I think it is important to note, can we talk about, like, get really descriptive about poo here? Is that going to work?
Sure.
Okay. So because again, I really encourage you, every time you take a poo, like, look at it before you flush. Because again, it is like a little vital sign. It's a report card, and it can tell you so much about how your body is functioning and how your gut health is doing. So an ideal poo is kind of like a sausage. It's all one. It should come out in pretty much one long put together shape, right? That's ideal. There are some variations, like it can have cracks in it, or it can be, even if it looks kind of like balls, but they're pushed together and they kind of stay together when they're flushed, that can be a little variation of normal. That's ideal. You don't want any stomach pain before it happens. You don't want anything to feel inflamed or burning after, or itchy, none of that. But if you are having loose stools, again, you know that it's probably not normal. If you're having constipation and you're not having a bowel movement every day, that's a problem. Or if you are having a bowel movement every day, but you never feel like you're actually emptying, that's also a problem, because you can be constipated and be pooing every day. Two things can happen at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And it can still be a problem. And so that's like number one, basic. We want your poo to be pretty ideal. You will always go through periods where it's not ideal. Or if you had something to drink a couple nights before, your poo's going to be messed up a little bit, right? So I'm looking for patterns. So when I have clients come to me and they say, oh my gosh, I had loose stools. And I'm like, okay, well, how long? Well, a couple days. I'm like, well, it's not, let's calm, right? Like I'm looking at pattern. We probably don't need to invest right now. Let's just see how it goes, see how you're feeling, prioritize fiber, do all of the things to take care of your body and see if it goes away on its own, right?
Yeah.
But the biggest, if you have bloating that is so severe that it's causing pain. And again, I was there. I would wake up so insanely bloated before I put anything in my body. I couldn't take a deep breath because the bloating was so bad. Literally, to take a deep breath, I had to get on all fours like a dog so that I could release the pressure and actually inhale deeply. Like it was awful. So I think sometimes for people who've never experienced bloating, it sounds like you're like, whatever, you still look fine. Oh, you're small. That's what people would say to me. You're so small. You look great. And I'm like, no, it's not about how I look. It's about how I feel. It's that I can't take a deep breath, right? And my pants don't fit comfortably and it's causing back pain and it's all the other things that go with it. And even, so the gut symptoms, again, you would probably know if you had some of those things. The bloating, reflux is a gut issue too. Yeah. But even things like brain fog, anxiety, depression, acne, that could be like specifically body acne is really connected to gut health. Getting sick often, that can be a gut issue too. Hormone imbalance sometimes can be a gut issue. So there's a lot of things that can be connected. But I usually see the clients that have the overt gut issues, right? Like they're pooping once a week or they're having 5 bowel movements a day. And we always go to foundations. And that's what I was talking about before. Yes, I want to heal your gut. I want to do the fancy things. I want to investigate what's going on. We will always start with foundations first. So if you are not eating in a way that's supportive of your body, if you're not sleeping, if you're not managing your stress, I'm not going to test your gut. We're not doing a stool test because let's do these things for free first and see what's solved. So maybe that solves 60% of your gut issues. And then from there, we can say, okay, those 5 symptoms are gone, but these 5 are still lingering. That gives me a much closer look at what could be going wrong. So you were having these gut symptoms because your foundations were out of whack, but these are something deeper. And that's when we dive deep and maybe do a stool test or do some more specific pointed work for the gut.
Right. A lot of these symptoms that you're mentioning are sounding familiar to me for women who have been diagnosed with IBS. Are these the types of symptoms that women would, go to a doctor and they'll tell them all these symptoms and they'll just say, you have IBS?
Yes. I'm so glad you brought this up. This is like a button for me. Talking about IBS, so buckle up. So IBS is a syndrome, irritable bowel syndrome. And a syndrome is not a disease. A syndrome is a name for a group of symptoms. So this is how it plays out for my clients or for anyone, if you're going to feel really seen and heard right now. You go to your doctor and you're like, hey, I've got bloating. Sometimes I have constipation. Sometimes I have diarrhea. Like my stomach hurts a lot. And they're like, oh yeah, you probably have IBS. And they're like, great, what do we do about it? It's just you have IBS. I don't know, right? Like eat water and drink water. So what's happening there when you understand that IBS is just a name for symptoms, it's like going to your doctor and saying, hey, I have constipation and bloating and diarrhea sometimes. And they're like, yeah, it's because you have constipation, bloating, and diarrhea. And you're like, yeah, right? They're just giving a name, like a cute name to your symptoms. And it doesn't tell you why you have those symptoms. And the problem is that then every time, once that goes on your medical record, every time you go to a doctor complaining of gut issues, what do you think they say? They say, well, it's just your IBS. And you're like, yeah, but why, right? Why is this happening? And a lot of clients come to me with a normal colonoscopy. All of their tests look, quote, normal, which is really frustrating. If you know something is wrong in your body and you're going to your doctor and they say, good news, everything looks normal, see you in a year. You're like, well, I'm telling you it's not normal. I'm telling you I don't feel well. And there's no investigating happening in traditional medicine. And part of it, it's not because doctors don't care. It's not because they're funded by pharmaceutical companies, because I've worked in that system. They do care. They're lovely people, but they don't have the time. The way that our healthcare system is structured, they can't investigate your root cause in a 15-minute appointment. It's not It's like you're asking for something that they can't give. That is where functional medicine comes in. If you're somebody who wants to know how and why, you are looking for a functional medicine practitioner. You're not looking for traditional healthcare. And you need both. Like I have clients, I'm glad they got a colonoscopy. I want you to rule out very serious things that are out of my scope. Like we need traditional medicine. But when you're not getting answers there, that's when you turn to someone else and say, well, I don't just want to take a pill for the rest of my life. I want to figure out why this is happening so that we can actually correct it so that I don't even have to think about these symptoms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so good. I think when people think about working with a dietitian or think about trying to heal their gut, one of the first things that comes to mind is probably that they're going to have to, be on a strict diet, cut out a lot of foods. What are your thoughts on that? Because I know I've seen you on Instagram talking about, that you don't have to have such a strict diet. So how does that work? Because, how can I eat, fun foods if I really need to heal my gut?
Yeah, it's a great question. Honestly, the most controversial things that I post are about how you can eat pizza or you can eat, you don't have to do a low FODMAP diet. You don't have to be gluten-free, dairy-free. And I'm telling you, like, this is exactly what I do with clients. And clients come to me after spending thousands upon thousands with many practitioners. And then they come to me and we do everything completely different. And for the first time, they actually find healing. So it's not like I'm just blowing smoke. Like I do this repeatedly with clients. And the food, so it's kind of hard to explain because your diet does influence your health 100%. I am not advocating that people eat pizza every night for dinner, Chinese every day for lunch. For breakfast, you can go to Starbucks and get whatever the heck you want, right? Obviously, you will have health problems from that. But what I also see, especially in the functional medicine space, is that it's so restrictive. You can't have dairy, you can't have gluten, you can't have seed oils, you can never have this, you can never have that. When you can, telling yourself you can't have it is going to lead to a negative relationship with food. It's going to create higher desirability of that food. You're going to crave it. And when you're faced with it in front of your face, you're going to overeat it because you never do this. You can't have it. And it's this shameful thing. And you're just going to eat it all so nobody knows that it was here. Right. Mm-hmm. So what I help people do is we're going to prioritize your health. We're going to get adequate protein. We're going to eat mostly whole foods. We're going to clean things up and make sure that you have patterns that are setting your body up for longevity, for optimal health, for gut healing. But that can also include pizza when you're at your kid's birthday party. Mm-hmm. That can include a glass of wine if you're out with the girls. Now, if you're having a glass of wine every night cooking dinner, we're going to talk about that, right? So I'm not advocating that what you're eating doesn't affect your health, but what is the most important is what do your patterns of eating look like? The one time you ate pizza at a birthday party is completely insignificant to your long-term health picture. Mm-hmm. But if you eat pizza 3 times a week, that's a pattern and that is going to affect your health. Mm-hmm. So I try to bring this really not common sense, that's not the word I'm looking for, really, what's the word? Down to earth approach. That's not it either. But do you got anything
realistic too? It's, it's more realistic to think that, I can occasionally have these foods than think I am never going to have these foods. And it's back to that mentality, like I shared earlier, of like, if I don't do my ABC checklist, then I have failed and I'm defeated and discouraged. And I think that's similar here. If you have such a restrictive list of things you can and can't eat and you don't hit it, then that just emotionally, mentally is defeating.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that I want to take away from women too is there's this sense of guilt and shame that comes with gut issues because we are made to believe that if I have gut issues, it's my fault. It's something I'm eating that I shouldn't be. It's something that I did. It's having too many antibiotics. It's all of these things. And when you come from that place of guilt and shame, it's really hard to heal the body, truly, right? You now think my body is broken. It's all my fault. I have to find my way out of this. And it sets off this state of panic almost. Your digestive tract will not function appropriately if you are constantly panicking. If you are constantly stressed, if you are in a state of fight or flight, it's not going to function. So I want people to understand that sometimes things are completely out of your control. For my gut issues, it was caused by food poisoning from a restaurant in town. And
Wow.
I had zero gut issues ever. And then food poisoning, and boom, I've lived my life with a sensitive gut and had these massive things that I had to fix. That's
crazy.
not a story, but it's like sometimes, your microbiome is passed down from your mom.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, maybe it's mom's fault. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to blame mom. You know what I'm saying? It's like some factors are in your control, and we're going to control the controllables, and we're going to let go of everything else. And the fact that you had a brownie at a girls' night on Tuesday is probably not the reason that you have these chronic gut issues, right? And we give so much power to food, and I really help clients see food as more objective. While also prioritizing food that's going to make them feel great. So again, for some people, that sounds like you can't have both, but you can. We're going to mostly fuel our body because we want to feel good. And we understand that there's also room for all of these other foods because it's not a pattern. It's happening, every so often. And again, that can be a trap of your brain telling you a story that's not necessarily true. So if I have a client who's like, yeah, but I only drink Coke every once in a while. I'm like, okay, so when's the last time you had it? What's today? Okay, when was the time before that? I had it 2 days ago, but this is what happened, right? And I'm like, okay, well, when before that? Well, then I also had it the day before, but this is why, right? And I'm like, okay, do you see how this isn't in your head? You're saying, I just have it every once in a while. But you've actually had it 5 times in the past week. So the Coke itself is insignificant in your health picture. The Coke as a pattern of having it most days out of the week, that's the problem. And so you need to figure out, why is that coming up for you? Is it an emotional thing? Do you have some type of an emotional attachment to Coke that we need to figure out what that is and how do we overcome it? Because that is another huge passion of mine, is like healing emotional eating, that all or nothing mindset, because it's really holding a lot of women back.
Right. I like that. And one thing that I really want to touch base on before we wrap up is the gut health and hormone connection. I mean, obviously, women have a lot of hormone issues, whether that's, anything from acne to period issues to thyroid to stress to, you name it. So many hormone issues that women deal with. So, I mean, how can you address such a broad topic with gut health? What's the connection there?
Yeah, so it's not always connected, but sometimes it very much is. So if you are struggling with hormonal issues and you have some of the gut symptoms that we talked about before, very good place to look is your gut. So when you have a dysregulated gut, there can be a lot of inflammation that's happening, right? And then there's a lot, I'm going to try not to get too sciencey, too nerdy here because I don't want to lose people. They're like, yeah, see you later.
I like it.
Yeah. So your gut can create a lot of inflammation. There's specific bacteria in your gut that on and of themselves are inflammatory. So they grow things on their outer shell called lipopolysaccharide, or LPS. You may have heard of it. And just them existing is inflammatory. Now, everyone has them in our gut. Everyone has them. But when they are overgrown, coupled with low good bacteria, coupled with poor, repair of your digestive walls, that's a recipe for disaster, right? And that inflammation can cause a lot of issues in the gut. There are ways that things in the gut can leak out into the rest of the body, and that creates systemic inflammation. That's where we see connections with brain fog, with depression, with anxiety, with headaches, migraines. But it's also going to affect, any inflammation in the body that's prolonged can really affect hormones. And so I work with clients often just about with their gut issues. And then as a side effect, they're like, oh my gosh, my period is amazing. I didn't need any ibuprofen. It was totally manageable. I didn't have the bloating. I wasn't super moody before. And we were never targeting the hormones. So sometimes I think people, or they do come to me with period issues and they're like, why aren't we talking about my period? And I'm like, well, we're talking about the foundational things. We're talking about stress management, sleep. We're addressing the gut. That fixes your hormones. It's rarely ever a hormone issue. It's the hormones reacting to something else going on. And that's that root cause approach. So if you go to a doctor with hormone concerns, they're going to say, we'll put you on birth control. It'll stop all of the normal fluctuations of your hormones and manage them. And if you come to a functional provider, we're like, well, what is causing that dysfunction? Because that's the fix, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that, I mean, hormones, and again, that can be, it shows up as period issues usually for the clients that I see because they are cycling women. And again, that period is a report card. And so if it's not going well, or if you're miserable the entire week of your period, or maybe even the week leading up to it, that's 25% of your life as a cycling woman. Like, do you want to miss out on 25% of your life for something that is fixable? Probably not, right? Like, yeah. And it's hard because society too, and every movie and every commercial, women on their period are laying on the couch and they're downing themselves, with chocolate and whatever else. And so we're fed this idea that it's normal, and it's not. It's common, but it's not normal.
Yeah. Very good distinction.
Yeah.
Okay. How can women who do feel like they need more support and help with their health connect with you and continue to learn from you?
Yeah. So Instagram's the best way to, if you're just like, you sound a little crazy, I'd like to hear more. All of my antics on Instagram at dietitian Brittany. And then a good starting point. So like I said, we had just launched some communities. So if you're looking for the foundational things like we talked about, which again is where you need to start for literally any health concern that you have, we started a community that's literally $39 a month. And what we did is I took my one-on-one framework that people pay a really big ticket price for in one-on-ones and put them down into levels that are really manageable that people can move through on their own, and stuck it in a community for a ton of support, and partnered with an evolution coach, which he's essentially a root cause therapist. So we work on the mindset piece too. Mm-hmm. So that shift community is addressing self-sabotage. It's getting rid of that all or nothing. It's figuring out why you can't, quote, stick to something, why you are telling yourself you have poor willpower. It's not just telling you to do better. It's figuring out, why are you self-sabotaging? Why would you have that all or nothing? And really undoing that with the nutrition piece. So that is 100% the best place for people to start. The pricing is very intentional because we wanted it to be accessible for everybody. Like, skip your one eating out. We spend $30. I swear, every time I leave my house, I spend $100 at least.
Yeah, I didn't even want to tell you. With like a family of 6 with 3 teenagers, it's insane.
Yeah. So we wanted it to be really accessible, and that is a great place to start. And then within that community, you can up level. Even if you have gut issues, then there is a component to that community that you can upgrade to that gives you, again, my exact framework for helping people heal their gut. In that community where you have that support and really one-on-one access to me. So all of it's kind of within that community, and that's a really good place to start.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely put that in the show notes for everyone. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom with us. I love what you're doing and how you're helping women.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me, and hopefully we run into each other in person soon.
That would be amazing. Thanks for listening to today's episode on the Daily Wellness Podcast. We hope that you found it helpful for your own wellness journey. And if so, we'd love for you to leave a review. Then come back and listen for review shoutouts on upcoming episodes. For more information, check out the show notes and connect with us on our website, dailywellnesscommunity.com.